Every year I make a fruit cake. I make enough to fit into two standard loaf pans, one to keep at home for the holidays and one to take to my family. So this particular recipe is not like the old-fashioned one with the candied pineapple and those green dried fruits. I don't really care for those. This is more of the natural dried fruit recipe because that's what I prefer. And it really is healthier for you and they really taste delicious. So I'm going to show you how to make this really wonderful fruit cake. I hope you enjoy this. So here I have raisins, here I have prunes, I have dates, I have dried apricots, and you have to have a total of 2.5 pounds of dried fruit, and that includes candied cherries, and these are the only candied dry fruit I use because I can't live without these cherries, and they sure make them colorful. But as far as the green dried fruit and the pineapple, I don't like those. But so you have to have a total of 2.5 pounds of fruit. And then you're going to need 3/4 a cup of either rum, brandy, any kind of whiskey or cranberry juice or whatever. So I'm going to put 3/4 of a cup of brandy in this measuring cup here. And you can either, you're going to soak all this, and you can either soak it for 3 or 4 hours, or you could soak it overnight, whatever you want to do. So we're going to put everything in a bowl. So you can just, I was a little short on one of the dried fruits, so I decided to add a little extra of the raisins because I had more raisins. But like I said, any combination, I have a cup of dried apricots. I have extra raisins, but like I said, then I have prunes. And everything here I chopped up because everything needs to be chopped. You don't want whole pieces. And I did find a pit in the prunes, in the pitless prunes. So you really have to check them and that there's no pits or anything in them. So even if it says pitless. So last of all, I'm going to put our heaping cup of candied cherries in, which was my favorite part growing up with the fruit cake. I always liked to bite into a cherry. So after we have all of our dried fruits all in the bowl, we're going to pour in our 3/4 cup of brandy, or whatever alcohol you choose, or cranberry, or you can use apple juice if you want. You could even put water, but this is to soak. And I find that the alcohol really is nice on a fruit cake. It just gives it so much more flavor. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this soak in. I'm not sure if I'm going to soak this overnight or for 3 or 4 hours. It's morning time right now, so I'll just see. But this is the first step that you're going to do, is you're going to get all your fruit prepared, chopped and prepared. So this is optional, but I have a whole tree filled of mandarins, and so I'm just going to do a little zest, not a lot, maybe 2 teaspoons of a little zest to kind of just give it a little zest. So it'll probably be like 1 full little mandarin, which would probably be maybe a teaspoon. So this is optional, but I thought I'd take advantage of my mandarins. So today's a brand new day. I did let this fruit sit in the alcohol for 24 hours. So now we're going to make the batter and put everything together. We're going to roast our pecans at 350 degrees for about 10 minutes and then take them out and chop them. So the first step in making our batter is 1 cup of room temperature butter and 2 cups of brown sugar, and we're going to blend that together until it's creamy. You beat in 4 eggs individually until they're creamed in. Here's your pecans after about 10 minutes. They're nice and roasted. So now we're going to chop them. So now we're going to add our dry ingredients, which is 3 cups of flour. We'll do that gradually. We have cocoa powder, we have cinnamon, we have nutmeg, allspice. We're going to put all that in. And we also have a 1/4 cup of dark corn syrup. So we're going to put all this in. And all the exact ingredients will be in the description under the video. And so we're going to kind of mix all this together, and we'll do the flour gradually. You're also going to add a 1/2 cup of juice water. It can be cranberry or apple. I have water, and I have a very small portion of it being brandy. So we're going to kind of mix all this alternately with the flour mixture, cocoa, corn syrup, everything. So we're just going to chop these semi-fine. So this is what your batter looks like after you add all your flour, dry ingredients, and butter and wet ingredients, eggs, everything. So now the last items that you're going to add in are your dried fruit that's been soaked overnight in brandy. You didn't have to soak it overnight. You could have done it in 3 or 4 hours, but it is better to soak overnight. So you're going to add the 2 cups of pecans, or you can use walnuts, whatever you prefer. And we're going to go over and mix everything together. So here everything is blended together, and we're ready to fill our loaf pans. You'll want to preheat your oven for 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and you'll want to have your loaf pans greased and floured. You could use parchment paper. I just find loaf pans much easier to just grease and flour. So your standard size loaf pan is like an 8.5 by a 4.5 by a 2.5 inch. So this one is that size. This is a little smaller, so we probably will have a little leftover batter. So we're going to go ahead and fill these up now. So these are the loaf pans, all full and ready to go in the oven. If you're using 2 standard loaf pans, you're going to start with 75 minutes, and it could take up to 2 hours or 2 hours and 10 or 15 minutes, just depending on your oven and the batter. So here we go. This is our finished fruit cake. This is one of them. And there's two ways to store them. You can either leave them in the pan, in your loaf pan like this. So I left one in this pan, and the other one, or you could take it out of the pan like I showed you and wrap it real well. I'm not finished wrapping this, but both of them will need to be wrapped in plastic wrap, even this one. So it's just, if you want to store it in this, you can. This is a really neat fruit cake. So if you ever thought that you didn't like fruitcake, it might be because you had all the different artificial coloring green dried fruits. This one is really, really good. So we aren't going to do a taste test today because these are for Christmas. So like I said, Christmas is just a few weeks away. These will keep, and once a week you'll baste them with a basting brush with whatever kind of alcohol you're using. And I hope this recipe turns out really good for you. Thank you. I decided to cut this one open, our fruitcake that we were keeping, so you could see what it looks like inside. And it does need to actually ferment longer because of the alcohol that will be basted through the days. But I wanted you to see what it looks like and how nice it looks. And I did taste it. It is delicious, but not as delicious as it will be once the fermentation of the alcohol gets set in.